Good morning. This is Friday, May 22nd. Father Tom Wersch at St. Rose Philippine Duchesne Church, and Kara Cohen, our communications director, fortunately, is filming this. Joe Murphy's been doing a lot of tech work in church, and didn't know what to wear, like you. Boy, in the rectory, we have to turn on the air conditioning in the evening because it's up near 80 and very humid. And then in a couple of hours in the morning, we have to turn on heat because it might be mid-60s. And so crazy like that. I know we always talk about St. Louis weather being like that. I can't remember it going on this long to have to use both air conditioning and heating in one day. The reason I'm speaking to you now is we have started masses. We're on the other side of the starting process. There's more to do with it yet. It's not a done deal how everything works. But we've had 3 mornings of 8 o'clock masses. It's gone very well. Good crowds of people, about 30, give or take, just on any of those 3 days. What we had to do was get the pews all ready. Sister Emily helped. One of our deacons, Gina, of course, Father Nikolai, Peggy Baker, Steve, our maintenance man. We all went in and kind of roped pews off. Every other pew is prevented by rope. And you may know that on the weekdays, all the side areas in the back alcove are roped off. And that's been really nice because we've had, again, about 30, and all of our people are in the middle for a weekday mass. It's been nice. On the Sundays, those will all be opened up. We had to get cleaning supplies through the Archdiocese, and there's a couple of different ways we may be changing that. We have to address the mask thing over and over. We have to address that. When you come to church, you will prominently see a sign that we all know that masks are required. Now, a few things happened before I get into some particular things about coming to Mass. I'm not going to repeat everything from last Friday, by the way. Look up Friday, May 15th. That was a long video on all the whys and exactly what has to happen and why. But we are told that although a higher number can now come in church, still anywhere on our grounds, we cannot have more than 10 people. And those 10 people or less have to observe social distance. All right, so there's nothing on the parking lot, nothing in the halls or the rooms or whatever that's excluded from that. Funerals can be pretty normal, I'm happy to say. We've only had a couple, but those families, some of the people had to wait outside. Only 10 people could come in. We don't have that limit now. We have a funeral for Mary White coming on Tuesday. Her daughter Donna comes here, and Christina and Jason Bell with little Richard, a cool little guy who's 5 years old. Christina's grandmother is one who died, Donna's mother. And they can bring their family in, just observing the mask requirement and every other pew. So a funeral will have a normal kind of a crowd. First Communion we're having in 2 weeks. Only children and parents. Our limit is 100. Deacon Bill did a good job of looking up our fire code limit. Our capacity is something like 400. So we can only have 25% capacity like you see in restaurants and other places. So our limit for a weekend crowd is 100. So even for First Communion, we had to limit it to the children and their parents. But the children are fitted out with cool little white masks that they will wear. They'll be able to take them off, of course, for communion, maybe one other time. So that's going to be in 2 weeks. The kids will have their First Communion. The garage sale, we finally resolved today. We understand it can't be where it was, when it was, in the form that it was. On school, that 3rd weekend of June, the massive size that it is. It's not going to be at the same time or at the same location or in the same format. Had a really good call with Teresa Brandt just now. We're reformatting it, probably for September, and more like on the site up here, the church site. That things wouldn't have to be moved. We're going to be able to get some furniture, maybe in a rental pod kind of thing, and have a couple of weekends of similar merchandise, only a few people at a time. At that point, as far as we know, only 10 people at a time. So hold off on the garage sale. There won't be any pickups or anything yet. We're looking to September. With that, I think I can go into the masses a little bit. We have weekday mass at 8 o'clock. That's not the 8:30 time or the 6:30 time that we had before. That's working out well. Our people are often retired or not having day jobs to get to, Even visitors to our parish have come to the 8 o'clock Mass, even when they came to 6:30, so that's been good. Now, some people are not coming yet to Mass even on Sunday, even though this Sunday will be our first weekend. I respect that, and that's what I want you all to know. For those who don't feel comfortable coming back yet to church, that's kind of a good idea for a lot of people. Number one, as we know, we keep saying, anybody with pre-existing conditions, asthma, a heart irregularity of some kind or concern, COPD, all those other, diabetes is a really bad one for this disease. So anything that makes you kind of more vulnerable to diseases, it's good to not be there. Over 60 is, you got to be pretty strong and know you could take things, but certainly by the late 70s, 80s, it's probably not a good idea. But here's what I want to say to all of you. There is some risk in coming to Mass at this time. That is simply flat out. There is some risk in coming. The CDC and the 4 bishops of Missouri have made a format to limit the risks by social distancing in church and by the required use of masks. But there's always going to be risk. Now, you know that this virus comes from our breathing above anything else, and it's highly infectious. You've seen the little corona thing with all the little spikes on it. All those little spikes are, I read, attachers. So more than other viruses or other flus, this thing is easy to catch. And that's why even with the precautions we're taking, there is some risk to coming. You have to know about that. By the time we start speaking or even singing in church, there's a real concern. That's why masks have to be in place for that. Choirs are not allowed right now because they would all be singing and probably with a mask off at that time. And there's been terrible stories of choir members being sickened, a couple dying because of that. So I would say if you're not sure about the safety of it, that's okay right now. We have a limited number of people coming. Wait 2 to 3 weeks. By the middle of June, we're going to know if our parish has a spike in infections, you know that term. I think it'll be gathered all throughout Missouri, not just the population, but Catholic bishops are going to be watching, and we're to report if we suddenly have some more cases of the COVID-19 disease among our people who have been to church again. There could be new regulations put out, another withdrawal of access for a while. But by the middle of June, we'll know. If there's nothing really alarming, then we kind of go ahead. Then we can all stick our toe into the water a little bit more, as we say. But we're going to know about that time. In the meantime, there's no obligation to attend even a Sunday Mass, and you can watch even a weekday Mass live stream now. I'll talk about that in a moment. You could watch a weekday Mass. We've begun live streaming them. So if you're going to hold off a little bit, that's okay. If you are attending, I told the people at Mass this morning, just be aware that you are accepting some risk by coming. All right? And we don't get into the magical thinking. I said that 2 months ago in March. Oh, God will protect us if we're at church. God respects our decisions and where we place ourselves at risk. The virus doesn't know what room it is, if it's a church or a store. So there's no magic about saying we can't get it in church. That's false thinking. There is some risk to being together, even that confined. We've got the pews separated. But by the speaking and by the atmosphere in church, we just don't know yet, and that's the point, as you know. Very little is actually known except highly infectious, and it's in the air when we breathe. There are stories of people in churches being sickened and some dying, even though they were in church. As I said, the virus doesn't care. So what to do then? Well, be judicious, a word I love to say. You're not supposed to go to the grocery store every day. That's a risk to go into the grocery store. They tell you to shop for 2 weeks. Put your mask on, go in, don't touch any more than you need to. Get it and get out and sanitize on the way out. Same here. I don't know about coming every day until we know how safe our practices really are. There's no need to, or certainly no obligation to. So you might think about that in a way to be prudent and limit your exposure. It's not just, we can go back every day now. Yes, you're allowed to. Maybe that's not the best thing for you. Maybe go 2 or 3 days during the week. And then again, in the middle of June, we'll know more about how these practices are protecting us and if we're all okay. So on the masks, besides the distancing, you come in church, you'll see ropes, not bad looking at all. Every other pew is roped off. But the mask, you see a big sign. They're required. There was some bad language in the first notice that we got, and people who read that, and they said that maybe they could be removed at some point, and the pastor said, whoa, why do that? The breath is what transmits this thing. 6 feet is not a long way. And if we're speaking, responding at church, or when we get to singing, no to taking them off. Me and other pastors said that. So the wording was changed to say that masks are required during the service of Mass. Now the pastors can make it even stricter, but we are not allowed to loosen it up. So that's how the mask is required. Now some people feel they're kind of confining or get a little anxious about breathing. For one thing, look at what you can wear. I wear this thing, it's cloth. It's right over me. I can breathe fine with this. I can go a lot of places with this on. I could wear it all day if I needed to. And my mouth is breathing, and it's not confining my breath. But so for one thing, get a comfortable mask. It doesn't have to be a medical quality N95 like I have for my anointings and did the other night again. You don't get to have a big plastic cup. Get a piece of cloth that is a face covering, the nose and the mouth, cover the nose and the mouth, and make it comfortable. Secondly, if you do get really tight for a minute, pull your mask down to expose your nose. Oh, you can breathe easier if you're a little concerned or get uptight, anxious. Pull it down, don't take it off. Pull it down to your nose and breathe for a while. And I think you'll be more comfortable. You know, like wearing new glasses or wearing dentures, none of us like something on our face. After a while, we get used to it. But you could lower it briefly and then put it back up. If you really need to, the kind of nuclear option, step outside for a while. I don't think you'll have to, especially with a more comfortable. We're going to have some masks over there. If you need to, go outside for a while and then come back in. But when you're in the church, don't remove it like this. Simply lower it for a brief time of breathing and then put it back up. And remember, this is what allows us to be together. Apart from this, we cannot even come in church. That's the bishop's rule, but it's the most sensible of all the things that we have to deal with. We simply learn to get used to it. Now again, you know about your underlying things you may have, or somebody in the home wakes up with a cough or a sore throat. Don't come. Take your temperature. I asked the people in Mass this morning how many remembered to take their temperature. Well, not everybody. Put your thermometer next to your keys or where you sit and first have coffee before coming up. I did. My temperature today is 97.7. The target point, of course, is 99, higher than 99 is a problem. I made a mistake on that last week. You knew that, though. 99, higher than 99 is a problem. Up to 99, but higher than 99 could be something starting. So if it's above 99, do take your temperature. Come in church with your mask in place. Of course, I ask you not to move the ropes that are in place over the pews. For the weekends, that back alcove and the side areas will be open. It's a little not sure about it. We save some rooms just for families. And we're not perfect at this. You'll get into a pew and see the middle parts have a blue X of tape. That means don't sit in that part, of course. We'll get used to it. But you can enter any pew from either side, and you should have your 6 feet, even more if a family needs it. Please observe, some are marked not for an individual because they're in-between size. They would be only for 2 people in a family or more in a family. Got about 4 or 6 pews in the back. I think we'll all find our way. We'll adjust this as we go if we need to. We'll be trying this out. The only other thing is communion. Now we have a strict instruction again among the priests and deacons. We're going to be the only ones doing it. When you come to communion, get into the aisle. When you come up near the priest or minister, then you lower your mask. Not when you're standing in your pew getting out. Wait till you're up. You'll see the tape marks. We have good tape marks. Wait 6 feet. I think we're all getting used to that kind of stuff. Lower your mask when you get close to us and consume the host. I'm glad that you can. I'm really glad that you can. And then you would cover your face back up. But at communion time, only in the hand by now, and excuse me. If the minister's hand touches your hand, we are to sanitize. So what I'm saying is we teach our kids flat hands. Don't have them all up like this. Flat hands. We're going to kind of dive in. We're going to put the host right on the palm of your hand without touching. Should our hands touch, we're going to have to put the host down, go sanitize our hand before we take the next person. I know it's going to happen occasionally, but help us out with keeping your hand flat. Let us just place it without touching your hand, and we'll go on from there. Leaving again, the priests, unfortunately, we can't hang out at the side door to say hello or goodbye. I wish we could at one point, hope to get back to that, but I might stand a couple of pews way in to just nod, but we can't have any gathering. You can't gather in church on the way out. Don't stop and talk to somebody there. I've teased our people about go to breakfast in the morning, decide that outside, keep walking. Mass is done, we leave within our family group or as an individual with 6 feet between us and go on outside. So people keep saying, well now, how long will this be? When do we get this back? What's this Mass schedule? Why 8 o'clock Mass? That's for cleaning. We sanitize after the whole church. We bombed the whole thing. We fumigated it before Tuesday. Between one of our workers and then some of our volunteers are going to start. We spray and mist every pew, every seat after every Mass. That's why, especially for the 10 o'clock Mass on Sunday, don't come till about 9:45 because we're going to be cleaning till then. But for how long? With this Mass schedule, I only know what I read and hear. I see everything that I can, and I don't know what you don't know if you pay attention to these things. A vaccine alone will give us protection. We have to drop these distance rules and other things. That's going to be up to a year. Probably not before a year. Could be produced earlier, then testing. Then how do you get 340 million in America given the shot that is a vaccine? So it could be up to a year before any of these practices change. You can call if you want to, but if you call, you'll get the same answer. First answer is we don't know. Second answer is up to a year. The Mass schedule we have in place. If we need another Mass on Sunday, we can wind up adjusting that. These Masses are nice so that they give us the space in between to clean. We have confessions on Saturday at 4 o'clock. That ends at 4:45 as before. And then a 5 o'clock Mass, then the church will be cleaned. So that's what we know is we're in it. We're happy to be this far in it. People have been coming to Mass, have been enjoying it. I think Sunday's going to be really enjoyable. You won't find a lot of music right now. There's no hymnals or missalettes in the pews. You could bring a missal for yourself. We're working with our musicians. We may start to integrate some music, but mostly quiet, I think, this coming week. But we're glad to be back. And settle in with this. Be glad we can do this. It's not going to be a few weeks. It's not going to be till fall. It's going to be right through the fall into next year that we observe what our Mass times are, having the pews marked the way they are, having the masks, yes, and the other precautions. We're knocking down the risk. There still is a risk, but it's considered to be an acceptable risk, and we'll find out in a few weeks if we've done enough, according to our bishops and the health officials. We're glad for their guidance, glad for the county and city guidance, and all of our leaders, and glad for our bishops. Happy to welcome you back. Live stream us. If you want weekday Mass live streams, send a note to Kara through the website or through the flock note that says, not everybody wants the weekday Mass, so we don't want to clutter up your inbox. So send a weekday note to Kara requesting that you want to know the weekday live streams. Again, if you're going to hold it off for now, I support you in doing that. And we'll know in a few more weeks how it is for everybody to come back. Thank you, and I'm glad we're where we're at.